Luphus Deughar N'tanna was an old and experienced forgotten warrior. He was the leader of a clan of warriors on Edrion, one of Pontis' moons. Edrion is a moon with an atmosphere, and most of the surface is covered with a giant jungle, full of abstract life species, enormous rivers and overgrown mountains. But since the beginning, the moon was also full of tyrannids who posed a constant threat to the safety of Pontis' borders. It was a rainy night on Edrion, and the sky was pounding the surface with enormous amounts of water. Antana and a small squad of marines were waiting in the woods and listening to the falling rain. They were on their regular patrol and weren't expecting anything unusual to happen that night. But then, fight, screams, gunshots, and gruesome growling of alien creatures. And then silence. The weather had washed the blood into the ground, but the horrible scene remained. The next day, another patrol found a pile of dismembered bodies, surrounded by corpses of a couple of hundred tyrannids. In the middle, there was their master. His body was decimated, and when he was brought back to the base, they figured out his body could not be saved. He was now trapped, unable to move but still awake, waiting. Many petitions were sent if he could be engraved in a dreadnought, as he was serving the Forgotten chapter for many years, but all got denied. One morning, however, Antana suddenly disappeared and couldn't be found again. Him and a couple of his most loyal servants went deep into the jungle and weren't seen again. 6 years later, Antana's story had been forgotten, but Tyranids were still there, and one day a massive force gathered and attacked the fortress on Mount Gyala. Space Marines were desperately trying to stop the first wave, and backup was still far away. But suddenly, Tyranids' attention jumped to the other side of the field when a squad of Space Marines showed up at the edge of the forest. And behind them, a giant machine was hovering above their heads. And Antana called his brothers to fight once again. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. We're writing a forgotten story again, today with a very special character. Now, you've already heard a story behind him, and I hope you enjoyed this little segment where I told it and built the miniature. And now I'm gonna show how I painted it. First, I base coated basically the whole miniature in this dark silver paint. I used Iron Warriors from Citadel. I diluted it slightly with water and applied it on the whole miniature. After it was dry, I washed it and highlighted it with lighter silver. As for the armor, I base coated it with 2 thin coats of Zendri dust. I edge highlighted the armor with Morga's Bone, and then I started adding the weathering. First, I used Morga's Bone again to add these little spots along the edge highlight. They will serve as a base for further weathering. It will also in some places represent the lighter damage. Now the next step is putting dark brown at the places where I've put the lighter color before. Next thing I want to talk about is these patterns. Now, these patterns aren't just something you would put on to look nice, these have actual meaning. Forgotten warriors put those patterns everywhere, on vehicles, dreadnoughts, and even their armor. It is a symbol of loyalty to the Forgotten chapter and also of experience that this warrior has had. More patterns you have on your armor, more experienced you are. Now, this dreadnought, this man is very experienced, and his armor was, before he was engraved in a dreadnought, painted all over with those markings. And it is only right that the dreadnought is also covered in them. I will probably make a separate video explaining the patterns, as it is quite complicated. At this point my dreadnought needed a pop, so I added all of those blue accents in form of lights, cables and plasma glow on the plasma gun. I painted those plates on the main body as stone plates. Now, the plan is to have something written on it, but I'm not exactly sure what, so if you would like to help me decide, write it down in the comments. And the miniature is almost complete. Now, if we finish the story from before, well, how he had gotten a dreadnought is still unclear to this day. Some say it was a custom build, some say it was secretly transported to the moon during the years they were waiting in the jungle. After the fight was won, Antana was honored a title of leader of Edrion once again. And of course, he's now the death and foe of every single tyrannid that comes to his reach. And this is Luphus Deughar N'tanna. Now, I really hope you enjoyed watching me make it, and as always, I would really appreciate some feedback in the comment section. Now, some of you may be wondering, what is this purple helmet that I've put on the top of the dreadnought? It is actually a tribute to the first custom Space Marine that I made. Back then I was planning to make a custom chapter and it was called Purple, and this is the first miniature, the first and only actually. Look at how tiny it looks next to the dreadnought now. Thank you everyone very much for watching. Now, Forgotten journals are being written and will continue to be written throughout the year. I hope you are enjoying the series as much as I am, and if you are, consider supporting me by leaving a like and a subscription. I would really appreciate it. And until we see each other again, have a good one everyone.